In this video, traders, we're going to look at Ponzi schemes. Stay tuned. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. Okay, so what's a Ponzi scheme? How can you avoid it? What's it all about? And some of the telltale signs that you might be in a Ponzi scheme. Now, we're probably all familiar with the bigger Ponzi schemes. Charles Ponzi started the whole thing out as what it's named after. He kind of did this system where he was arbitraging stamps basically, and then he evolved that into a Ponzi scheme. We had Bernie Madoff, or Madoff, however you want to pronounce it, obviously the massive famous one who had a lot of kind of high level politicians, celebrities, big money involved in that. He obviously was sentenced to a long time in prison for his Ponzi scheme, but there are thousands of them going on at all times, guys. And often I'll speak to people, and it's like as a trader or investor, someone will kind of come up to you and talk to you about stuff in trading and investing, and they'll all sorts of schemes that some have been approached with. Especially we had the crypto thing, which sprouted up a lot of kind of unsavory things as well as the legitimate side of crypto. So you kind of got to be a bit aware of these things going around, and ultimately there are kind of a few things that you've got to look out for, which not only for yourself to watch out for, but also for others as well, friends and family who kind of advise you, or not advise you, who kind of come to you and say, hey, listen, what's this all about? Do you think this is a good investment? And you can look at it and you can just smell a rat straight away. So the idea of a Ponzi scheme is that it's basically a pyramid scheme. Now, a pyramid scheme isn't necessarily a Ponzi scheme, but it's the same kind of structure. In other words, you've got that shape, you've got people sitting at the top who create the Ponzi scheme, then you've got the kind of first ones in. And ultimately, the idea is that money needs to keep flowing into the Ponzi scheme to keep it flowing. As soon as it stops going, that's when the Ponzi scheme ends. Because ultimately, the idea of a Ponzi scheme is that money is used from new investors to pay old investors. So as money flows in, that's used to pay the old investors. And if you can think, you've got maybe 1, 2, 4 at the top, and then as you get more money coming in, these guys are getting paid out. It's looking great. These guys aren't. You need another layer to come in to pay those guys. You need another layer to pay those guys. And obviously, that's just getting larger and larger and larger and larger. At some point, it just becomes completely saturated. So there's obviously loads of intricacies that go on to kind of create the illusion. And one of the things is that money gets moved around to create this illusion. So there's always a kind of a plan or some sort of a supposed business model around it. So that's the kind of overall look at it, is that money flows in and it's a pyramid scheme. But there's always a reason for it. In other words, someone say, hey, we had obviously ones where people saying they're trading, they're making money investing. They have ones where people say they're making money doing some kind of unusual business, or they've found some sort of opportunity with this or that, the other, or there's some gambling thing or something other. It's something where they're creating money, and they'll come up with an elaborate kind of story around it, and it'll look really, really good on paper, and they'll say, I'm managing to do this, I'm able to do this, I'm able to import this and sell this and do that, whatever it may be. It won't be a traditional business model, or it's unlikely to be a traditional business model. I'm sure it could be, but it's not like someone's going to come to you and say, hey, will you invest in my restaurant? Will you invest in this? Will you invest in that? A different situation. It'll be something that's a little bit unusual, but it will look really good on paper. So 100% in 90 days, for example. That's the kind of thing that Charles Ponzi was doing. And so what it does is it kind of fuels people's greed, and they think, well, that sounds pretty good. And there's kind of elaborate ways of doing it and stuff, but generally speaking, perhaps someone will put in a small amount of money, and then a few days later, they might return double that money. So let's say puts in £500, say, a bit cautious stuff, puts £500 in, then 7-10 days later, they get a statement back and say, hey, your £500 grown to £1,000. Now, perhaps someone will withdraw that, but what they plan on is someone then saying, okay, well, that sounds great. What about if I stick 25 grand in? Can you do the same? And the Ponzi guy goes, yes, of course I can. Sticks to 25 grand in. Of course, then that's when the whole game, the game started already, but this is when we get this new money moving around. So that money then gets paid to the guys at the top. So you can imagine someone's been in before, they get a little bit nervous about it. They get some money to keep them in and keep them satisfied. So they're kind of, well, don't worry about your capital, here's some income. So they might give them some money or show them a statement, or even not give them money and just doctor a statement and say, hey, this is your statement, so much you own at the moment, which is a complete lie, complete fraudulent statement. But if they do take the money out, some people dropping out won't damage it too bad as long as you've got the flow of money coming in. So it's all an illusion, it's all a fraud, it's all a scam, and no matter what the kind of pretense is what's been going on underneath it, it's still the same old strategy. And it's creating an illusion of a genuine business. And you know, if you look at all these kind of Ponzi schemes and frauds that have gone on, a lot of it's got really, really big, where they were literally creating fraudulent documents. They were making it into a real big kind of monster, because they got to a point where it would just collapse if they didn't have more money flowing in. So they got people adding more money, and even people who are up the chain, so to speak, would be fueling by adding more money in. And so the general rule is this, guys. I mean, if it looks too good to be true, be careful with it. You're not going to say the old thing of, oh, if it looks too good to be true, ignore it, but just be careful. Look at all the things that are going on with it. If someone comes up and shows you something, say, why would somebody A, ask for investment for this, and B, what are the red flags? Is this an unusual thing? Why do they need money for it? Why do I need to come in here? Why do I need to hold my money for a certain amount of time? There'll be other things like that. Say, no, you've got to hold it. Your money can't be given out for a certain period of time as well, because they don't want you withdrawing it. There'll be those games of dangle a small carrot. Why don't you invest a small amount, then they'll show you a massive return, then you get bigger amounts. And this is just going on, and it goes on daily across the world. I'm sure there is stuff going on daily, not as big as obviously Bernie Madoff, but those kind of things are going on. So just be careful of those guys. Ponzi schemes, be cautious. If someone comes up to you and suggests it, be aware of it. If one of your friends or family comes up and asks for your advice on it, then be aware of it as well. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.